Okay, we'll just get started. Thanks for sitting and listening to our presentation today. What struck me with the panel discussion this morning, if you heard it, how many times Chris mentioned the gold rush. And a lot of people think that this metaverse is going to kind of create itself out of thin air. But as we know, the mining space is responsible for pretty much everything we do in our lives. I get the sense that you're sitting here, you have an interest in it. So let's walk through where we think this is headed. Starting with what Forbes said themselves about gold and the price escalation over time. They think it's going to $3,000 and above. I violently agree with that statement. We look at the turbulence in the markets and what's happening with this Vujade effect, the sense that this has never happened before. We have 2 years of a pandemic, global issuances of currencies to create the inflationary effects that we're living through right now, on top of which, as a cherry on top, so to speak, we have this terrible event happening in Ukraine and Russia, which is only going to impact the price of gold going forward. We don't know when it's going to rip in that direction, but I think that when that happens, it's going to go literally vertical. So this is what Mr. Forbes and his group have said. Let's talk about finding gold in the shadow of head frames is always a good idea, and also thinking about how one should look at investing in the gold space and the gold equities. I joined this company 5 years ago, and really my blueprint is what I used then and what I use today. We start with location. Is one of the most important things. Same thing within real estate, but especially in mining. Unless you're in a mining-friendly jurisdiction where they allow you to conduct your business, you're in for a lot of challenges going forward. The other question to ask yourselves is there an existing resource that's growing, or do they think there's gold in them, their hills, but they haven't yet found it yet? That's number two. Do they have the capital in hand to execute their business plan or not? And has the team done this before, and do they have a strategic partnership? So this is something to think about with respect to our name or any name, just a helpful advice. We have a well-capitalized company. We're a gold exploration company existing with 3 million ounces so far. We have district-scale projects in a premier jurisdiction of Quebec, Canada. We have a strategic partnership with one of the world's largest gold producers called Agnico Eagle, and our management team has been doing this for decades. So this is just a precursor as to what we'll talk about today. And as everyone knows, the old adage, the best place to find a mine is right next to one. And we have an example of that across all of our projects today. One thing to keep in mind, though, is not all explorers are created equal. It's important to look at all the factors I mentioned before, but also look at where we are on the investment curve. So everyone's here because they're looking for good new ideas. And Lassonde is one of the best gold mining investors ever, but this applies to all mining equity investment thesis. You start with speculative investing at the beginning, you go through the discovery development phase, and we are actually at the most exciting part of this phase at Maple Gold. We're right around here where we've passed through initial discovery and concept, and now we're starting to build the resource. And so if I would suggest that this is a fun time to get involved with our name. What have we done so far? Why do I think that I can stand on stage and say that we're pretty good at this? Well, compared to the COMEX, Gold, and VanEck ETFs, we've been outperforming everybody else up to this point, but we're just getting started. You can see again that all successful exploration companies have a great management, interest aligned with investors, high upside projects with district scale potential, and then funding and near-term catalysts. So if you guys get involved today, what's going to happen next to drive the share price higher? So these are all things to keep in mind. We've outperformed the indexes by 3.5 times to 5 times over time since 2020. I'm going to let a video play now, let you see, make it real for 2 minutes, and then I'll come back and say a few more words.
Found in the heart of the legendary Abitibi Gold region of Quebec sits a 400 square kilometer land package. With an industry-leading partner, they're advancing 3 projects on top of a gold system of world-class proportions. This is Maple Gold Mines.
Welcome to our virtual site tour. We hope you enjoy the ride and enjoy the experience. We have 3 projects in the Casa Berardi, on the Casa Berardi Deformation Zone.
There's probably no better jurisdiction to be operating in than in the province of Quebec.
The Abitibi is one of the most prolific gold mining districts in the world. There's almost 200 million ounces of gold that's been produced out of the region, and we still believe there's a lot to be found here.
The most important thing is this idea of size. These guys found gold over 6 kilometers, and they are still exploring like if they haven't found the end of it yet. You know, for this kind of big deposit, you have to have a partner. And with Agnico Eagle as a partner, now we have the support that we need.
Agnico Eagle is a very large gold producing entity, and it's quite fortunate for us to have that kind of firepower behind us as a strong older cousin looking out for us. That lends the market credibility that most companies don't have at our stage.
We're starting with a known deposit, so we have fairly detailed information that's associated with the Douay deposit itself, as well as the Eagle-Joutel deposits. That allows us to be a bit more precise in our exploration targeting.
We are taking a modern approach to exploration. We have a systematic, 3-dimensional model that's based on a tremendous amount of drilling.
We expect to continue to be able to deliver the kind of intercepts that we have been delivering since we've been on the project.
It starts and ends with the rocks, but everything in between is relationships.
We're fortunate to have an incredible team working on this project.
The team that Maple Gold has assembled is world class.
This is by far the best team I have ever worked with.
You can see we have access to water, we have access to power, which are the most important resources that you need infrastructure-wise to be able to build a mine. So the location is absolutely second to none.
We want the mining analysts to realize, hey, this is a big playground. These guys know what they're doing. They got the background, the experience, and they got the financial capability to do it. It's a big system in the right part of the world.
In terms of geological endowment, it's very clear that this is a world-class system.
I firmly believe this is going to become one of the best mining gold stories in Canada, if not the world. With every drill program, we keep getting better and better. So where are we in the planet? We're up in Quebec, Canada. It's been a Canadian hub for gold mining, over 200 million ounces produced to date. It's also, if you're thinking about exits on the share price and where as an investor, it's had $26 billion of M&A activity just in the region since 2013. Our partner Agnico Eagle just combined with Kirkland Lake to become one of the largest gold producing companies in the planet. And their production profile for ounces has them just under 2 million ounces annually being produced. So what that means is they have to look forward to where they're going to get their future ounces, which is why they're investing in a company like ours. Just a few seconds on, there's a lot of big pharmaceutical companies here and biotech. If you think about a junior mining exploration company, you can think about similar to a biotech lab that's proving the efficacy of a drug. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable in that lab if Pfizer takes a stake in them early on. And that's really what we're talking about here. We have an exploration project that has a Pfizer, if you will, in Agnico Eagle saying this is going to work, and they're backing us. They've given us money at the corporate level. They've given us money on the ground. They're helping us with exploration. That is a big de-risking factor for anyone thinking about what a junior mining story is compared to, say, a biotech story. They told the world when they announced their big merger last year about all their projects, and if you look up at the top there, you can see where ours is. It's that purple blob on the top right, the little Pac-Man looking thing. They talk about the synergies between us. Our project is 400 square kilometers. We have 3 million ounces so far on one of the projects. We also acquired from Agnico a very high-grade past producing project that produced over 1 million ounces back in the 90s when gold was only $300 an ounce, which means we believe they left a lot of material behind, and I'll tell you why that is momentarily. And we have a 100% controlled project just next door to that. Size matters in mining, and if you look at our project next to the 2 projects that I mentioned a second ago, the footprint is very similar. We have about a 6 by 2 kilometer square area of the resource, which is growing, but also it's very similar to the other projects that they're working on. It's underexplored, and we're at 55 kilometers of strike, which means there's a crack in the earth which has allowed these ounces to be represented near surface. The partnership with Agnico, as I mentioned, is a 50-50. They gave us $18.25 million over 4 years minimum spend on exploration. They put money into the company so far. They're about $14 million into us. We manage the joint venture operations as the GM, which means all of our costs go onto that. And we have this 400 square kilometer land package. Where are we? We're near infrastructure. As you can see, we're right nearby other projects that are currently producing gold or have produced gold, which is an important thing to keep in mind. We're near commercial airports, 2 of them actually. We have power, we have water, we have everything else. So that's the Douay Gold Project, 3 million ounces, a gram, 1.6 grams, and the indicated and inferred is about 2.5 million ounces. Upcoming catalysts, we have information and news flow from our drilling results coming out in the next few weeks, next month. Throughout the rest of the year, we'll be drilling about 30,000 meters from now until the end of the year. So there's a lot of news coming out and interesting catalysts for us upcoming. Here's a picture of what it looks like. We recently put out a material resource update, and this is what when a third party says, yes, you've drilled holes down the ground and you've shown that, kind of like an MRI does on a cancerous tumor, you find from many directions any form of 3D model will show you what it looks like under the earth. So these numbers are verified by a third party. They have to be in order for us to put them out publicly as a public company. And what we did recently was we updated that resource estimate. We showed that we increased the indicated resource by 21%. We added ounces everywhere underneath, and this thing just keeps getting bigger and bigger, which is quite important. The other thing to keep in mind is, like, how good are these guys at finding new ounces? Well, it's cost us about $23 per each additional incremental ounce. Gold is at $2,000 an ounce. It costs us $23 to find every incremental ounce. I would say that's a not bad investment for your dollars. And I think about if shareholders of our company, how are we putting those dollars to use? I think that's an argument for how efficient we're being in our exploration. What is this thing going to look like ultimately? This is a third-party analyst that put together the conceptual pit, which shows you the size of this system and where most of the ounces sit. This is something they put together to show you how it could look going forward. For scale, you can see South Beach, right there, Collins Avenue. The approximate strike length of our system is about as long as the entire beach area. So not small, but that's just the beginning size. So now we're going to be targeting additional infill to build through these conceptual pit areas, how you get the initial mine underway, and that'll be coming out soon. But really the story behind this system is what lies beneath. The plumbing for all of these ounces near surface comes from under the earth. The ounces don't flutter down from the sky like snowflakes. They have to actually come from deep within the plumbing billions of years ago when it was molten lava and found its way to the surface. And that's why Agnico actually is backing us. They need to point to a couple of million ounces annually of production going forward to keep their mills turning, and we represent that potential for them. So the average vertical depth for our ounces is about 350 meters. The thematically in that region, it's a lot deeper. If you look at examples of other projects, in fact theirs, which is the most profitable gold mine in Canada, is the Canadian Malartic project. It's 2 kilometers deep. We're 350 meters, just 3 football fields beneath the surface. So as you get deeper, the grades improve in the Abitibi and in Quebec. This happens everywhere you look up there. So here's an example of their project. They found another 6 million ounces, 3 grams, 2 kilometers down. And this is really what they're looking for also in our project. And this year we're going to be doing some deep pits to test those deeper horizons below the ounces we've already found at surface. So this is really why, again, to that one of those first slides, it's an exciting time to be a part of our company, because this is really where the inflection part happens, the quantum leaps, if you will, with our company's growth. So that's one of the projects. Here's the past producing project that we acquired from the partnership with Agnico. This is what it looked like when it was producing in up to 1993, and what the gold price was doing back then. As you can see back then, gold started off below around $200, but on average it was about $300 per ounce. So they got off this project and moved elsewhere. They figured they'd mined everything out. They needed to pay. They were a $20 million market cap company at the time. Today they're $25 billion, for example. And they went off to do other things. They didn't look at it. They had all the data for that project sitting in banker boxes in an attic, kind of like grandma's little jewelry box sitting in the attic. Don't know really what's in it. And they never took a look at it until we asked them, we need to digitize everything and see what's there. So it sat around for nearly 30 years with no one taking a look at it. And in the Abitibi, in this area, in Quebec, there's a number of restart stories where people have said, let's go take a look at that. In fact, the largest one, Malartic, is a restart story. People thought it was dead and forgotten. Somebody took it over, $14 million market cap company took it over. It sold for $4 billion to Agnico and Kirkland Lake. This is not the first time this has happened. So it's a little bit shocking to me, to be honest, that they didn't notice that and they didn't digitize this information. But we'll show you now what we found, which is why I get giddy every time I talk about it. Here's what it looked like when they mined that horizon in the past. Their average grade of production was 6.5 grams, very, very high. Their minimum cutoff that they look at is 6 grams. So relative to what we're doing today in the world, it's very, very high grade. We've already started drilling there. We're putting out news in the next few weeks. And it's also extremely rare to have this much data in any new project. So I'm going to show you a fly-through model of what it looks like, what we've discovered with our 3D digitization and the model we put together. So they started with the Eagle project on the left-hand side there, and they started mining from left to right. As you'll know, Agnico Eagle, this is their first ever gold mine that they worked on, and it's part of their namesake. So they're very happy to get it back into their world, so to speak. The shafts down there still exist, they're in place. As you can probably imagine, building a building below the surface is quite more expensive than building one above surface. And so all that infrastructure work and cost has already been done. The purple plums, if you will, are all the high-grade area in the middle that you can see that they mined out. And now we're looking at all the areas around that are completely open. They've never touched any of the material up there on top of the right-hand side there, because back then they needed 6 grams minimum, and that's 5 gram, 3 gram, 2 gram material. Below, the numbers get even more staggering. 12 grams, 15 grams, 80 grams in some areas, and we're looking at all the areas below. We're not looking at the scraps that left behind. We're looking at extending the resource significantly by advanced exploration. So here's our capital structure. The question around, do we have the money to execute on our plan? We have $21 million in our account at the moment. We have funding from Agnico and some warrants that'll come into our system that equate to about $21 million. So overall, we have between $45 and $60 million in our system currently. Who else owns our shares? So who else thinks we are a good bet? You've heard of some of these names. I'm sure Agnico Eagle, maybe you've heard it for the first time today, but you've probably heard of Fidelity. They bought as much as they possibly could when we announced the deal with Agnico. So they did their due diligence. Agnico did 2 years of diligence. They ad nauseum came over and asked to look at the core, sent teams. It took a couple of years to put that together. And some other names that you may or may not know. The case to pose a $300 billion fund out of Quebec. They supported Canadian Malartic, that one I showed you earlier, from the beginning all the way, and they helped finance it all the way through development. So other institutional investors are a big part of our story. Again, this all goes back to the de-risking. All companies aren't created equal. It's taken me 5 years of my time to get to this point, and it is not a small feat to get these types of groups to actually support you in your growth. Down to the team who's been involved, I came from a company called Ivanhoe Mines. Now it's a $15 billion company. The previous iteration of Ivanhoe Mines was bought out by Rio Tinto, a multi-billion-dollar organization. All my team members are from other banks and mining institutions. My VP Exploration, Fred Speidel, has been doing this for his entire life. He speaks 4 languages, came from Quebec originally. And David Broughton and I found some of the largest platinum projects and gold projects in South America, and South Africa, which it was part of the Ivanhoe Mines world now. I worked there for 12 years before I left to join and start and run this enterprise. So this gives you an idea as to what the track records are of the individuals involved, myself included, and also the team around me. We've done this before. I would never have left a $15 billion company unless I thought this had a great chance of success. And so far, things are starting to get really interesting. So in summary, these are the highlights. We're located in Quebec, which is a very prolific mining jurisdiction. We already have ounces in the ground. We have a high-grade producer that is going to be daylit, so to speak. We're going to be talking about all the information that we're discovering on our own, the drilling there. We have an incredible partner that kind of validates what we're doing. The team has been doing this before. We have cash in the ground and a lot of institutional support behind our story. So that's it. I'll stop now to see if there's any questions you may have. Please, sir. When we joined with Agnico and we contributed both projects, we held back a 2% NSR, which means that we get the net smelter royalty in the future if once it goes into production, or it's a $40 million check we get in lieu of. Mark.
Talk a little bit about kind of the path to production for Douay, that's really the flagship project.
Yeah.
In terms of where you'd like to see the resource growth, underground versus near surface.
There we're taking a two-pronged approach. We're looking at further exploration near surface to get the critical mass, because we'll mine through that as we get deeper. The second prong is actually finding the underground extensions, the super high-grade, larger size ounces that we'll attack after we get through the near surface. So it's a two-pronged approach. Exploration and discovery near surface, around 350 meters, and then we'll go for the really deep quantum leaps. Yes, sir.
Why didn't Agnico just go ahead and buy the whole thing? Are they waiting for one particular milestone to be reached?
Their number is 5 million ounces that they usually look at before they make an acquisition. Our resource estimate group says that we have already additional 1.5 million ounces below the currently drilled interval, so we're at 4.5 if you add that to what we have so far. I would speculate that we're not too far from that decision point for our big brothers. So that's why it's also a fun time to get involved in our story, because you can kind of see where this may evolve. Yes?
Your resources are indicated and inferred. Is it difficult to come up with a measured resource in this type of project?
It's a matter of narrowing the spacing between the drill holes.
Yeah.
And that's just a matter of money. So money and time. Yes?
Also on the Jutel project, Agnico is involved in 50%. With Casa Berardi Eagle, you have 100% control. So is it fair to say that you're kind of looking at all these three projects as kind of the district scale opportunity? And at what point would, say, Eagle be part of the joint venture?
Well, they'll have to pay more than we paid. For sure, and it's obvious that because they're connected at depth, that it has to become part of the joint venture. So I will work hard on behalf of all of our shareholders and stakeholders to make sure that we get the maximum value for that project as it comes into the joint venture. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for your time and for listening.